So this is actually a kind of a demo of one of the little Midi camera setups here. Slightly different than one of the rigs we're using for the actual tour currently. But when we did the show the first time, we had, I think, upwards of 9 or 12 cameras, and so they were of different sizes. And I think this was actually a floor-mounted unit. That's why it's a little larger base and that thing. But same basic concept. Is inside is there's a board, and it has a MIDI input and a power supply input, and it does have a, you can see there, it does have a MIDI through as well, if that was necessary to chain these guys, which we ended up doing. It saved some cable run and that kind of thing. I'm just plugging straight into a MIDI connection here, but we did have a wireless MIDI transmitter receiver combo right here, so that worked out really nicely, you know, when cable runs became an issue. But otherwise, it has a you know, just a camera feed right off of any camera that you mount up here, and then there's the pan and tilt motors that are actually just kind of standard hobby servos if you've you know, flown a radio-controlled airplane or something like that. That's the same kind of deal. This small little mounting bracket is you know, bought on the internet for a few dollars, and the decoder board inside is I think it runs somewhere under $100. It was from a little website called Yoast Engineering, Y-O-S-T. They sell it for $70 or something like that. So you could pop one of those in, you know. And
so it's pre-built.
Yes, yeah, it's pre-built. Yeah, it's a solderless connection. The little plugs from the servos pop right on, and yeah, and there's 15 outputs on there, and some various options. You can do a fine and a coarse control if you wanted to run it 14-bit. And so the whole setup, you know, a pan and tilt setup with a, you know, camera, any kind of camera, basically a security size camera, lipstick camera, to be mounted on top, and you're ready to go. You know, so if I don't have a MIDI surface right here, but if I did, we could plug it straight in and control away. For demonstration purposes, though, I've made a little demo app here in 4V, and it allows me to kind of do a point and look kind of interface. So I'm able to move my mouse cursor around the image, almost like a first-person shooter video game kind of thing. And you can see in this case, we're running the power for the camera off the power for the motors. So that was one thing we had to be aware of, is you know, that gives us a pretty noisy image. We get a lot of noise on the video line, but so it ended up we ran separate power for the camera and for the motors board. But in this case, it actually makes some interesting visual patterns. So who knows? Maybe that'll be the demo, the feature for the 2.0 version. In any case, so it's simple mouse movement even up here. Gets this guy to spin around, and because of the nature of the motors, you know, they're servos, so you know they're not super fine resolution, and so you know it gives you a certain look. Actually, it gives you kind of a glitchy, poppy look, which happened to jive pretty well with the content of this show. But I suppose for, you know, the same concept could be applied to anything like many of the other DMX, you know, video movers or lighting instruments and stuff like that. They're using stepper motors and stuff, which is a little more refined. You can get some smoother control out of it. But I think you know, this could be run smoothly. It's just a matter of, you know, limiting the motors to a certain degree, and you know, possibly if it was controlled through software or some kind of damper was applied to it, it could probably be smoothed out, you know, when it's doing animation or something. But kind of the cool thing is that this was made basically for very little money, you know, and so then that allowed us to make multiples of them fairly quickly and fairly cheaply, and also they were easy to repair on set, which is good for any kind of moving, you know, equipment. But it also allows you to, like, you know, kind of make up things as you go along. So for instance, if I wanted to remove this little camera, I think I take it off. You can move the little camera and then replace it with you know, any kind of mirror, something like that, and you have an instant video mover at that point, you know. Put that in front of one's projector and you know, you can start moving your projected image around fairly cheaply. And then even if you wanted to get more creative, you could take something like a standard, you know, torch or flashlight and match it on there as well, and you have kind of your own kind of homebrew automated lighting system. Yeah, so that's another way to go.
You could go the camera on top of that.
Yeah, and there you go. You have light wherever you look. So, you know, possibilities are endless, I suppose. They're really pretty darn flexible, and you could make, you know, you could start, if you're crafty, you could start making all kinds of different stuff. At one point in the first show we did, we had this, a similar unit like this mounted on a track that rode in front of the entire setup of the DJ setup. So it would go back and forth and would give us some really, you know, really good panning footage and stuff like that. Plus it helped, you know, we could point it back at the screen with the DJ up there and get some video feedback, you know, and it warped across as we moved it through and stuff like that. So yeah, it worked really well. So, you know, it's one of those very pleasant surprises that